So before I get to the crazy things that happen in this World Cup, and you better believe that I am going to be very, very kind of dramatic in terms of that review of the World Cup. Let's talk about the MLS game first. That's going to be happening on this 4th of July midweek. And there's going to be also one game that's going to be happening very soon. And by the time that I finish this video, most likely this game has already started for all of you that have watched it. Or this game has already ended, depending on what time do you actually watch my video. But there's going to be 6 games. There's going to be 5 that's going to be on Wednesday. And there's going to be one that is going to be happening on Tuesday, which is the day that I am recording this video. And we're going to start with the Houston versus LAFC game. So LAFC has now won their last 3 games, and they're creeping ever so closer to that 3rd spot, or the 2nd spot, not the 3rd spot. They currently are 3rd right now in the standings. Well, Houston, well, they blow another lead. And they blow another lead on the road, one of many that they have blown this season, and they lost to Sporting KC 3-2. And Houston did not play last week, so they do get an advantage of getting a week off. But they are going to be playing against an LAFC team that is really, really good and are on absolutely fire right now. Like, this LAFC team, with how good they've been playing and how surprisingly good they've been playing. I mean, I've been always saying how this team, with the fact that they do not have their best player, they're still playing very well right now. And a lot of that had to do with guys that you probably wouldn't think would be a big impact. Guys like Diamande, for example, a guy that just literally signed a couple of weeks after LAFC start playing and wasn't even part of the squad in the first game of the season. He is absolutely on fire right now. And the other guys on their team, like Latif Blessing, League Win, and all the other players that are players that we think they are not going to be, they're gonna really kind of struggle when they do not have like their big star on their team. They're still performing fine right now. So this is a big kind of game. Certainly this will be a really tough task for Houston to try to maybe get a result against LAFC. But then again, Houston is a team that tends to be good at home, so maybe they can use that as a way to potentially beat LAFC. And keep in mind, Houston has a couple of injury of their own too, which is why this team isn't as good as it used to be in the beginning of the season. But yeah, next up, Minnesota play against TFC. So both of these teams are winless in 3 games. The Loons have lost 3 in a row, while TFC has drew 1 and lost the last 2 games. And this is a game that TFC have to win. I mean, everybody right now, majority of the people that whenever they play Minnesota and they are in a very bad stretch, they are able to get a result against them. I mean, Minnesota is kind of like that team that if you need something pure and you need a big win, then just play against us. Now, I know the fact that this is a road game, and I know that Minnesota, you know, in the last game they were pretty unlucky against FC Dallas because they did play pretty well. But this is a game that TFC have to win if they're going to find themselves get closer in the red line. Like, these are the games that TFC cannot afford to lose. They cannot do what they did 3 games ago against DC United, where they go down 3-0 at home, and then eventually they did drew 4-4 in that game. And those are the teams that you would think TFC should be able to beat. I mean, yes, the last 2 games against the Red Bulls and against, you know, NYCFC, that wasn't those 2 opponents are always going to be tough. In fact, I would say maybe they should have beat the Red Bulls in the last game, because the Red Bulls were not having a very good game, and yet they still lost to the Red Bulls despite them playing very badly. So for TFC, this is a game that they have to win. If they do not win these games that they should be able to win, and playing against teams that is in the lower part of the standings, then this team does not belong into the playoffs. Like, even if this Toronto team does get into the playoffs, and I know some people say, well, what happened if they get all those guys back? Well, guess what? Just because TFC can get into the playoffs, and just because you would think that all those guys are going to get back into the squad and thinks that this team is going to start to do well, yeah, I'm not quite so sure, because I have seen so far that TFC had got a couple of their main guys back in this squad, and they are not doing it. And maybe this has something to do with just the fatigue level of this team. Because keep in mind, Toronto, they have been playing a lot of games in these last couple of seasons. Like, more than anybody in the league, and you just feel like the fatigue level is starting to kind of catch up to them, and that if you play that many games for the past couple of seasons, eventually you will have to, it's going to be really hard to just kind of sustain them week in and week out and year in and year out, and I think that's what TFC is suffering from this season. But moving on to probably the biggest game of this 4th of July midweek edition, it's FC Dallas versus Atlanta. Now, this looked like it was a big game maybe about a couple of days ago, until just recently there's been an official announcement that Mauro Diaz is leaving FC Dallas and that he is joining a UAE club. I mean, this, first of all, I'm very shocked about this move. I don't know why in the world did Dallas decide to let go of Mauro Diaz. I mean, all this talk in the off season about how the future of Mauro Diaz and how is he going to stay or is he going to go, and eventually right near the beginning of the season, Dallas finally made the decision that, you know, we're going to keep Mauro Diaz for another season or maybe a couple more seasons. And then all of a sudden, just maybe a couple of days ago, there's a link that he could be leaving Dallas and going to a UAE club. And I thought for sure that that has to be a false rumor and that cannot be true. Like, Mauro Diaz so far this season has been much, much better. He has kind of revitalized what he was a couple of seasons ago. And then all of a sudden, Dallas decided to trade him because they want to trade him so that he can be able to go to a UAE club where it's pretty sure that this is a money move by Mauro Diaz, and he is going to be one of those footballers that just want to go to another club, not just because of talent, but they want to just earn that extra cheese. And this is a huge loss for Dallas, and this could be a loss that might cripple their chances of going deep into the playoffs or even making the playoffs. Because remember, last season, you know, Dallas was kind of like right around this kind of spot where they just kind of like were on an amazing form, and they were really going with just hitting all cylinders, and then all of a sudden they had this very bad run, and then it just turned into a cliffhanger where they just dive down the cliff and just never come back. And right now with this move, with Mauro Diaz leaving, one of their biggest playmaker on that team leaving, you know, I'm not going to bet the fact that FC Dallas is going to have that same kind of moment this season. I mean, you know, this is a huge loss for Dallas, and I don't understand why exactly they want to replace him. It's not like they had a option where they have already thinking about signing somebody in the summer transfer window that's going to definitely replace Mauro Diaz and it's going to be better than what Diaz is. No, they don't even have that answer. Well, I'm assuming maybe they have that answer, because if they don't, then this move doesn't make any sense whatsoever. Like, I don't know what is FC Dallas thinking there. But if they do, and in some way they have lined up a replacement for Diaz, in some way, it still doesn't make any sense, because he has been just so key to this Dallas team for the last couple of seasons. And sure, he didn't have a good year last season, but this season he has started to revitalize his form, and all of a sudden, they just sold him. And now they're going to be playing against Atlanta team that is unbeaten in 7 games, and you wonder with him leaving and how Mauro Diaz is also a big kind of leader and a captain of that FC Dallas team, how will this really affect the players? Like, the players must have heard this news, and they must be absolutely devastated about that. And coming into a game where this is certainly a very big game for both teams, and that you are devastating, then this is not a good feeling to come into the game. And for Atlanta, this is certainly a good opportunity for them to get another win and get themselves further away from other teams that is in the Supporters Shield race. And I just think that they could do that, because I think with what happened with this news and how big of a loss this is for Dallas, this team could potentially not only lose this game, but maybe fall off a cliff like they did last season. But moving on into the last 3 games. So next up, Colorado versus Seattle. So it's nothing like seeing 2 bad teams going head to head on each other, and 2 teams that are currently tanking and just wasting this year for rebuilding on a 4th of July evening. And that is exactly what this match is. Although this match might be one of the first match that Colorado might be in favor of, and that could be potentially pull off another win, because right now the Sounders, yeah, they are very bad. And certainly the Rapids have won 2 in a row, and certainly maybe with the fact that they finally snapped out of that long losing streak, maybe that was the time where it gave them their confidence back, and then now they're starting to beat teams that you would think that they definitely did not have any chance, and now they're playing against another weak team, and this could be another chance for them to get another win. And who knows, maybe if Colorado can finally start to get going, you never know that this team could maybe sneak into the playoffs. I mean, as much as I think that's a little bit too optimistic and kind of diluted statement, you never know. Colorado, if they can keep going on this winning streak, then you definitely would say that they could definitely get themselves back into the playoff hunt. And as for the Sounders, no. That is not going to happen. I mean, this is just going to be a rebuilding year for them. I don't think Sounders fan will be very upset if they lose this one, because that has been how the Sounders is this year. They are clearly at a point where their championship window is slammed shut, and that they desperately need some new guys and need some new talented guy. Which I also heard that they have signed a new striker, and I forgot what was his name, but he's a Peruvian striker that actually played in the World Cup. So certainly maybe that might be the answer for Seattle and trying to solve their striker situation, which is just not good right now. But moving on into the last 2 games. So next up, RSL take on Sporting KC, and this one, RSL have only lost once at home, and Sporting KC did lose to Montreal surprisingly 2-0. And I have a feeling that this one might be another loss for Sporting KC. And as much as it's crazy to say that Sporting KC could have a back-to-back loss so far this season with the way how they've been going through their business and how good this team is, the reason why I think this team could be suffering back-to-back losses is that, 1, they have to travel all the way across the other side of the country to play a midweek game, and we all know that usually does not end up. A team that has to do that usually do not do very well, no matter if they're going to be at home or on the road. And for RSL, since RSL has a lot of they have a very good home record, in that they only lost once at home, and that was all the way back in the first game of the season. So technically they are unbeaten in the last 7 games at home. I just have a feeling that RSL can somehow pull this one off, and this would be a big victory for RSL. I mean, like I said before, if you're going to be a team that does not do well on the road and just don't do anything on the road, then you must win your home games. You must take care of your business at home if you want to make the playoffs, and that is something that RSL need to do if they want to make the playoffs, and that is just to win all those home games. But finally, into the last game, the Galaxy take on DC United. So the Galaxy blew a 3-1 lead, and they drew 3-3 to the Quakes in the Cali Clasico, while DC United lost a controversial game to New England 3-2. Again, that I'm pretty sure a lot of DC United fans are still pissed off because of the penalty decision in that game against New England that led to the winning goal. But you know, they're gonna have to move on from this, and certainly I think the thing that will make DC a little bit happier is hearing what Wayne Rooney had to say. And it's interesting what he had to say about this team is that, you know, I watched his interview and his first press conference, and he talked about how DC need to like bring in some new guys that is kind of like him style to trying to maybe get this team to playoffs, and you know, maybe that is gonna be something that DC might have to think about doing in the summer transfer window. But whatever it is, you know, for Rooney, this is certainly a very interesting move, and he also said that he made his decision to come to DC United because of the new stadium and the history that this team has had in the past. But for DC, you know, if this team is going to just heavily rely on Rooney and not bring in some reinforcement, then he is right. This team is not going to go very far. Like, Rooney will eventually start to feel frustrated. And this is kind of the same situation with the Galaxy too, of how they kept trying to heavily rely on Zlatan. And now Zlatan even openly say that he is getting frustrated the fact that they are not getting resort because the defense is an absolute shamble. And I have to agree with him 100%. This Galaxy defense is an absolute mess. It's even more of a mess than the defensive situation that we have right now at the Quakes time, and you saw it in that game in the Cali Clasico. I mean, you know, some people will say that this free draw was a spectacular kind of draw in the Cali Clasico, and it's just one of those wild kind of game. Well, yes, indeed, it was kind of a little bit wild, but at the same time, it was a game between two defense that just were non-existent in this game. And because of that, you have this crazy kind of scoring that has happened, and you have guys that are conceding penalties, and you also have seen both teams kind of go for on the attack. And you know, it does create that kind of exciting soccer, but in terms of if you're supporting one of these two teams, that is certainly the soccer you do not want to see. And that is a wide open game, and anything is going to be unpredictable, and that was what happened in that game. But for the Galaxy, you know, this is a game that I think they're going to have to win, because if they want to get themselves in the playoffs, and they're not that far below the red line, I think they're only like 3 or 4 points below the red line, and technically if you count points per game, they are actually above the team that is currently above the red line, which is the Whitecaps, and I think they are going to be above the red line right now. But you know, they need to start winning these games against easy team. You know, that loss to the Quakes was certainly a kind of, well, it wasn't a loss, but you know, they drew that game, but that certainly was a big missed opportunity, because that was a game that they could have got the victory. They were up 3-1 in that game. There's no excuse to blow a 3-1 lead on the road, and there's even a bigger no excuse to blow it to the worst team in the league right now. So, you know, the Galaxy, we're going to see if they can potentially get something out of it and maybe get a win against DC United. Or maybe if DC United can get a win and maybe start to get in with a good form before Rooney finally puts on a DC United shirt, which will be in the upcoming games. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. That is pretty much my preview of all 6 of these games. Let me know in the comments below, what do you think of all 6 of these games. Also leave your prediction below of all the score that will happen in these 6 games. And yeah, hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you do, make sure you guys leave a like, smash that subscribe button, and yeah, I will see you guys next time.